Okay, so last part of product development. And they get into ISM gets into collaboration with suppliers. And they're all for collaboration. They say it can only make you better. I kind of have a difference of opinion with them, but remember with ISM, it's all about collaboration and the supplier sharing their books and us sharing ours and all that jazz. So purchasing needs to learn to build relational capital. That's called supplier relationship management. Inspires trust and commitment. Exercise cross-functional leadership, generate commitment to new ways, communicate pervasively using approaches such as win-win, which is from the 80s and is totally dated, but contrast to using the last resort tactics such as pressure and ultimatums, which diminish relational capital. And in my notes, unfortunately, this rarely works in mature industries such as truck manufacturing. There's almost always a win-lose situation with us when we're negotiating. So find competing offers, gain leverage on the supplier, and squeeze. It's what we got to do. Supplier will always come back for more if your spend is big enough. And we are in competition for dollars with the supplier. So in the trucking industry, I'll run through some graphs here. So this is high growth industry. Think Apple iPhone in like 2010. They have pricing power. New suppliers want into the industry because it's a new industry. They've got innovative ideas and they offer them to Apple, exclusively to Apple. The idea shifts the demand curve up by 8% or thereabout, because more people want the product who did not own it before. So you're making a bigger and bigger pie, which is why your demand curve shifts out like that. The demand shift allows higher sales volume at a higher price. So when you shift this demand curve out, because you got new innovative ideas that more people want the phone. So now you're going to increase volumes from 50 to 60, and you're going to go up in price from 119 to 121. So that's all about a high growth industry. The pie keeps expanding. There's lots of money for everybody. Unfortunately, we happen to be in a mature, slow growth cyclical industry, which is growing maybe 2% a year with new truckers adding. There's strong barriers to entry in the trucking industry or any other industry that's mature cyclical. Suppliers are incentivized to sell the innovative ideas to all the customers in the industry. The supplier's not going to get anything but with lesser revenue if they just sell it to one of the truck manufacturers. So it's only growing 2%. Innovative ideas do not draw in new customers that don't already own the product. So we got new software on the truck and stuff, but it's not going to be like it's going to create new trucking firms. The trucking firms are what they are, and they want new stuff, but it's not going to shift the demand curve, because as the suppliers come up with new software or new ideas, they're going to sell them to everybody in the industry. It's just in their best interest, because this is not a hugely fast growing industry. So it's not really going to shift the demand curve. Maybe 2%, you might get a little bump. It might not shift it at all, because everybody's got the same thing. So manufacturers are in competition with their suppliers for the customer's dollar. So the end customer will not allow a price increase because our competitors will offer them the truck for less. And if the OE manufacturer drops prices to increase volume, their gross margin will decline. That's the only way it works in this industry. The suppliers aren't going to reduce their prices just so we can sell the trucks cheaper. In order to increase margins, manufacturers must become more efficient or reduce the material costs somehow. And that goes to our supply base too. They got to become more efficient so we can reduce the material cost. Suppliers' incentive is to limit competition in order to hold on to or increase their gross margins. So that's what they're trying to do with us. And for a supplier to grow revenue at 10% with an industry growing at 2%, they either got to grow their margins, which is very unlikely, or they got to add new lines of business. Suppliers must take it from their customers if they want to get to this 10% and a 2% growth industry. So several factors facilitate success of SRM. So this is back to ISM speak. Pick your spots and your partners carefully. Create a collaborative environment. Prove cooperation, understanding, and the interdependence of success between buyer and supplier. And it's not to say that that doesn't work in the trucking industry. It doesn't always work. And you just got to be careful, more careful in the trucking industry. Have a high level of commitment. Executive management got to clearly communicate both organizations of full cooperation and get supplier input at the beginning. Many suppliers will take the opportunity to write specifications in a way that limits competition. So you got to be careful of that. Some will write the spec that no one can make the part, and then once the business is submitted, submit the drawing changes to loosen the tolerance. So I've seen that too. It's like, yeah, you got to make it this way. It's like, oh, nobody can make it with those tight tolerances. Okay, well, we'll give it to this guy, and then he goes and does an SRDC to loosen the tolerances. Risk and identification mitigation. Complacency tends to set in when risk is absent. Therefore, it's important for the parties to agree to periodically reassess the progress in building the ability to walk away from the relationship if you aren't getting the desired results. And then rewards and penalties. So we're good at penalties with PACCAR. We're terrible at rewards, other than we give them new business. Contracts can be established. Certain incentives for the supplier to meet or exceed key performance metrics, accelerating product development timelines, awarding other lines of business. That's usually what we do. Granting credit on the cost management program. We do that also. And penalties for not meeting committed delivery dates. I mean, there's also cash awards for superior performance that could be done that we never do. In lieu of a cash penalty, the supplier may be required to invest a specific dollar amount in their quality or logistic systems. I've written that into contracts where if your PPM is above a certain level, you got to add 1%, spend 1% on your quality system. Supply management in product or service design. R&D, before drawings are released on a new product, there must be a conversation between designer, customers, and procurement. And what procurement will do is discuss product and material availability, as well as any new developments that they've heard of through the supply chain. Substitution, sometimes the suppliers can recommend newer alternate solutions. And product innovation, develop relationships with suppliers that result in sharing information on innovations in the industry. Contracting for design services, so supply management can contract with outside services to ensure if you're short engineers, we can go find some. Of course, that's going to cost you. So some of the engineering things that we can find people to do are circuit design, software development, machine assembly, graphic design, technical writing, modeling, testing, equipment rental, all this stuff you can personally go out and find somebody to do. A qualified products list. Call attention to parts that are on a qualified products list that can be purchased and those that may have long or unstable lead times. We don't really use that. I suppose you could if you didn't have a zillion parts. Sourcing and cost profitability issues. First thing to become involved upfront to make sure potential costs are identified accurately early in the product design. Material substitutions, standardization, modification of drawings or specs. And then target costing. So this is a concept that's used to identify the allowable price for a supplier's product. So the concept starts with the sales price. So you do some research You got a new truck and you decide what will the market pay for that new truck once it's complete. And then you subtract out whatever our required profit is, and it's been around 10%, I think, or 7 to 10%. So you take that out, and then the amount that's left over is then allocated among purchases and internal costs to come up with the target cost. So once you take out the profit, then you got to take out what it costs us to manufacture the truck or assemble it at the factory. And then what's left over is what you can pay for the parts. So sales price minus profit equals gross product cost. Gross product cost minus internal manufacturing costs equals what you got left over for parts. So improved communications and early supplier involvement can build a platform of mutual understanding, which helps negotiations. Cost reduction efforts provide the best method of determining what is possible for a target cost. An emphasis on continuous improvement will shift the focus of the company from engineering towards customer. Cost disclosure and understanding will help facilitate a partnering relationship. Give me a cost breakdown form. A lot of them won't do it. So here's the target costing process. You can use something called a Kanu model to determine the expected selling price. And then you can use conjoint analysis, which will help refine that. Then you subtract out so once you determine what you can sell the truck for with these two, then you subtract out what profit margin you need, 7 to 10%, come up with the gross product cost. Then you take out the internal manufacturing costs, and you can go with your cost reduction strategies, which are down here. We don't really use value engineering, but we do use DFMA. We use QFD. We do teardown workshops, and we do continuous improvement. And then once you get this product level cost, this is for the whole truck. You break it out into the different systems, powertrain, fab, and then you come up with component level costs. And that's what you put in the RPI and go to the supplier with. Here's another look at target costing. Supply management involvement, what's happening with supply purchasing, and some of the data sources. These are the steps. Identify the product characteristics, establish selling price, determine the target cost, and then cost breakdown. And you look at these types of things, DFMA and a few other things, and then new product rollout and continuous improvement efforts. So product standardization, we've covered before. Goal of product standardization is to reduce variety among a family of products by using common parts, also known as complexity management. This is what they call it in MCE. Design only those options the customer is willing to pay for. That's what conjoint analysis will help determine. Doesn't do you any good to design options that the customer doesn't want or is unwilling to pay for. All right, Dolores Clay is a new supply manager at Castle Industries, a manufacturer of lawn and garden tools. King Incorporated supplies forgings and castings to Castle, so King is the supplier. Clay learns that the castings supplied by King will require lengthy and costly setup periods in order to meet Castle specs. And since the specs frequently change for product improvements to meet customer demand, Clay decides to enter into a long-term collaborative relationship with King to reduce costs through potential casting reuses. King will need to ensure inventory optimization and limit Castle's exposure on obsolete inventory. Which of the following is the least likely success factor for this collaboration? Least likely. All right, see where this is coming from with ISM. Any guesses? So we're probably going to need the program management. And then you're going to, yeah, because you're not going to want full and open competition. You're going to want to You're gonna want to make an alliance with King. Yeah, pulling open competition may be used in initial source selection is not a tool to promote and manage collaborative relationship. One more here. Which of the following target cost strategies is performed to provide suppliers with a target price? This is kind of a weird question. Which of the following is performed to provide suppliers with a target price? Any guesses? I know what I'd go with. I don't know if it's right though.
Bravo.
What's that?
I was gonna Bravo.
Bravo? Yeah, I was thinking Alpha or Bravo. I was thinking Alpha, but it could be Bravo too. Let's see what we got here. Alpha.
Oh,
Yeah, cost reduction. It's because it's just kind of a dumb, obvious question. It's like, well, I mean, because it could be all of these, right? But oftentimes ISM thinks in very simplistic terms. All right, there's 5 questions out there. So why don't you guys go work on them and raise your hand when you get done. Otherwise, we will get going at time is it? 2:25. No. All right, let's go over some answers here. Number 11 is Delta. Hazardous materials would be least. 12 is Charlie. Why managers challenged to find good, reliable source for the allies so that the future supplies can be safeguarded. This is risk management. 13 is Alpha. Benchmarking by supply manager and developing new products is defined as providing external perspectives. 14 is Delta. Project target cost is derived by subtracting the desired profit margin and internal manufacturing costs from the expected selling price. And 15 is also Alpha. Nothing motivates supplier like or personnel like a cash payment. Any questions? All right. Got some tomorrow. What are we doing tomorrow? We are doing product ramp up and ramp down. That's short. All right. See you guys later.
See ya.
Thanks, Rick.